Hey everybody, this is Jamie the D, and welcome back to Wipeout. Today, we actually have a failure run as well as our usual hijinks. And with me is Razorwind. How you doing?
Hey, yep, I'm doing alright.
So, this is track 7 of 8 on the Wipeout League. We're almost finished with the league. And you can already see, magical start.
So, the one that's best for cornering instead goes straight into a wall.
Yeah, that was honestly my cock-up, and my excuse is, it's time trial, I'm not too worried, I'm sticking to that story.
Yeah, you're not really trying for the best times in the thread or anything.
Definitely not in a 5-star, it just doesn't have the top speed to be competitive. So, Manor Top, it's very similar to Vostok Island from Wipeout XL, in that, god damn, there's a lot of hard air brake turns!
Vostok also had sort of the jumps onto the sideways bit.
Yeah, and this is actually one of my favourite tracks, which is why it's doubly embarrassing there's a failure reel here. But look at this upcoming corner series. Just air brake. And then air brake, air brake, air brake, air brake.
You really do need to be a master of the air brake by this point, at least.
Oh yeah, if you haven't learned air brakes by this point, you are screwed. But the 5-star would normally be very good at this, but another one which is good at this, and it's quite surprising really, is the Kyrex.
Oh.
Because of the way it air brakes, it's a fairly slidey craft.
Right.
You actually end up getting a better entry.
So it can't do corners, but just sideways it can do.
Yeah. Yeah, although obviously you've got to air brake a little bit earlier because, you know, looks like a brick, turns like a brick. And the music is Sasha's 5-star.
Appropriately enough.
Yeah, DJ Sasha actually made, I think 5 or 6 out of the 10 tracks in Wipeout 3, well, 10 or 12, are team-themed. So we've had Goteki 45, I'm pretty sure there was an Oricom, definitely a 5-star. There's an Icarus, but surprisingly there's no Kyrex one.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's a little bit of a shame.
Yeah, apart from that, there's unfortunately not a lot to say about the actual design of the track, because all it is really hard corners, some of which are blind.
These are a relatively short one as well, actually.
Yeah, which is actually really nice. I like that some of the harder tracks are actually shorter. Complete with failure reel, this is something like 13 minutes, and the classic track we're going to look at next, that's 11 minutes without a failure reel. So, yeah.
A bit longer then.
Yeah, but
this is one that's got the rain going on, and this one is this track as well. Was it one of the ones, earlier ones, or one from last game that had quite a good rain effect going on?
Oh yeah, Wipeout had some of the great rain effects. Sadly, we don't actually see many rain effects anymore, and we're already starting to see weapon weaknesses because that's the theme of this failure run.
Right.
Mines, obviously, if the other guy's got a shield, then nothing's going to happen. And twice we've seen that the energy drain is line of sight only. And it also has a fairly short range, so if you get rocketed while you're energy draining someone, well, yeah, and if you try and do it just before a hard corner, well done, you just wasted it.
With a fair few of the weapons, then it would be a bit tricky to actually pull off in the midst of a race.
Oh yeah. of course, it's not as bad as some of the weapons that we're going to see in Fusion.
Yeah. I've experienced a few of those so far.
I remember you have experience with Fusion.
A little bit. A little bit.
Yes. It's memorable. But, yeah, normally I would be a lot further ahead, but a combination of a really bad piloting day and, well, some of my favourite dick moves not working, because the other weapon that's really not suited for this track is the
autopilot there just kind of deposits you into a radar.
Yeah, the other weapon not suited is the force wall, because there are so many corners that, well, they tend to path right past it. The cloak is actually useful, to be fair. And this will be... No, finally we got 2 people. But we're 4th and it's the last but 1 lap, and there is no rubber banding in this game.
Oh yes, they're just miles ahead of you.
Yeah.
So the issue with some of the weapons that some of them possibly more designed for multiplayer with an actual physical opponent rather than the AI trying to deal with.
Yeah, the force wall is actually quite fun to use in multiplayer if you can catch someone with it. The problem being that most people pretty much assume you're going to use a force wall. And yes, collision doesn't always work. But that's not actually the worst example you could have of a rescue bot in this map. In this track, if you're in a craft which is very slidey, then it's possible, and there's a weakness of autopilot, we've hit every mine. Yeah, if you're in a slidey craft, it's perfectly possible to have your back end go out of bounds behind the turn into each of these rooftops.
Alright.
And what will happen then is the rescue drone will deposit you behind where it picked you up.
So actually fighting against the rescue drones there.
Yeah! But thankfully we're doing a lot better now, despite not being able to avoid that second guy. That was a very good missile.
Yeah.
Missile multi-targeting is so great, and I miss it so much.
Is it this one they took out rear firing missiles? This one they put it in?
Yes. And then they reintroduced them in Fusion. But they also introduced a lot of rear firing things in Fusion. Which is part of the problem. But we'll get there when we get there.
Yeah, we'll be...
Because we've still got Phantom Mode.
Ooh, did you just get some with a plasma bolt or something there?
Yeah!
It's been, what, how many videos before you got that to work?
Oh, I don't know. I got one to work a couple of videos back, as I recall. Due to the very interesting collision boxes with plasma.
Yeah.
The collision box is actually it counts the wings.
Alright. Yeah, because the wings count as collision because the Piranha, the previous one, was all bounced off the floor because of things, wasn't it?
Oh yeah. But
the Quake is just very satisfying.
Oh yeah. Unfortunately, I think this is the last, maybe the last but one time the Quake is truly satisfying. I mean, it's still satisfying to use. It's just, they reduce the amount of ripple and they replace it with this weird particle effect that I'm not actually that fond of. Yeah,
because I think that is one of the few defining aspects of Wipeout that stick in people's mind is just the whole track rippling to a Quake.
Oh yeah, and just because. But it's a good indication of how hard these tracks are getting towards the end, that it took me until this lap, halfway through the last lap, to get first.
Yeah. And that's not just because you're on the low-speed fighter.
Well, providing you play dirty, you can actually get second lap first. In fact, the FISAR is all about playing dirty and making sure that nobody else can take advantage of their top speed. But in time trial, it's just not competitive at all.
Yeah.
That will be the very last time you see a FISAR new best. And the replay camera for this isn't actually that bad. It's a little jump cutty at times.
Yeah, it was nice troops around the corner though.
Yeah, and of course the Maneki Nico of I can't remember which one that's a mascot of. I think it's AGS.
I would assume AGS just because they're the heavily Japanese team, aren't they?
Yeah. Also a lovely shot of those mines. God damn.
Oh, I was wondering if that was lightning effect or if it was just a graphic problem.
Yeah, it is a lightning effect, but it's not a screen blinder like XL was. And that was a lovely impact shot of me making love to these walls.
This is what I want to do. There we go. Just rub the undercarriage along it for a bit.
Well, unfortunately we won't start to see ship damage until Fusion, and I think Fusion again is the only one that does that.
Yeah, I think they've tried to excise it so heavily that even the few good things it did were kind of tossed by the wayside.
Yeah. But we're almost to the end here. And overall, I like Manor. Like I said, it's one of my favourite tracks, and it's pretty iconic.
So it's one of those ones that you can pull off sort of the side swing and get out of that as fast as you can. It's got to feel.
And on top of that,
good.
Every single team is advertised on this track.
Collision-free hollow billboard.
Although I'm not quite sure who the black text is. I think that's AGS. Also, yeah, next time we'll be talking about ramp physics, among other things. I will be trying to put a post in the thread about the fun with Wipeout 3 physics, but ramps act in a very specific way that's quite interesting. And we'll definitely be talking about that for the classic track, which will be our old friend Odessa Keys.
But not in the South Pacific.
Which is actually nicer this time around, for a nice change. So, this has been Jamie the D.
And this is Razorwind.
Take care.